He is now also giving his team a tied-up series. It is 3-3, if I believe.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, JJH took 2 games for his team, and now Zug's taking that third one. So it is now 3-3. We are going into the decisive match of this best of 7 series, and I'm looking at the roster that MxG has available. Now, they still have Frostswarm, who's a Zerg, Moose Gills, who's a Zerg, Pezaperi, who's a Protoss, and RemarK, who's also a Protoss. Now, most of those players are not very well known to me, but RemarK does stand out in my mind. Now, I'm not sure where I've heard this name before. I think I've heard him in the WCS. That might make sense to me. The WCS, the United States or North America. He, I think, just based off of the name recognition, I think is going to be their ace player. So I think we might actually be going into a second Protoss versus Protoss.
Um, yeah, it's possible. Um, you said it was RemarK, right?
RemarK.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a Protoss versus Protoss on Shakuris, I believe is the map they chose.
I mean, I haven't
So,
gotten confirmation that that might be the map choice. If it is Shakura's Plateau, Ajax, we will be seeing Blink Stalkers again. One of them will be going for Blink Stalkers if it is going to be on Shakura's Plateau. But it's not set in stone. What maps do we still have available? We still have Whirlwind. We still have Shakura's Plateau. I actually think that those might be the only 2 maps that we haven't used yet.
yeah,
So, I believe so. So it's only going to be between it's going to be on Shakura's Plateau. So you were right. It's going to be on Shakura's Plateau. And if this is a Protoss versus Protoss, I'm calling it right now, it is going to be Blink Stalkers from one player at least. We might even see Blink Stalkers from both players. Blink Stalkers are just so good on Shakura's Plateau in the Protoss versus Protoss matchup. So while we have a quick moment, I want to give a quick thank you once again to our sponsors. We have the music that was done at the very beginning of this cast is done by Fourth Angel. That is Forth Angel. You can find them on Spotify and also on YouTube. You can also find Vivid Arts on YouTube as well, I believe. I think he's got some of his stuff up there. But he is at Insidia SC2, but also Jason, spelled JayJayson dot pun at gmail.com. That is jason.pun@gmail.com. And also Max at max.studios.com. Those are our sponsors, guys. If you are interested in any of the work that they do, please hit them up. They are supporting StarCraft, which is something that I cannot stress enough that I am just absolutely thankful for them for doing. I'm stumbling over myself right now because I am so excited to get into this last game, and I think it is going to be MxG RemarK.
it is for sure. And from what the people are saying in our chat is that RemarK is so solid. Um, Very good player, I'm assuming. If he's on MxG, he's got to compete with his other teammates. He's got to be solid.
I mean, I'm so sure that I have seen RemarK's name in a high class tournament before. I'm very sure it might have been the WCS. I think it was the WCS North America where RemarK he would have made it far in the WCS in order for me to really remember his name. So if that's true, and I'm going to double check after this is over because I can't obviously do it right now, but I'm going to double check and I'm going to give RemarK his due because I know I've seen this guy's name somewhere before. I'm pretty good at remembering names when I've seen them before. Like I'm definitely going to be remembering some of the names that I'm seeing already today. Uh, so this is going to be a battle between 2 Protoss Ace players. 2 Protoss Ace players. It is going to be a PvP. It's going to be on Shakura's Plateau. And like I said already, I'm already calling Blink Stalkers.
I don't know. I see a lot of different things on this map too. I see a lot of oh man, intense games where one person they kind of nullify each other at the beginning, and then one person goes for Colossus and the other person goes for like Archon charge lot. And you wouldn't think that charge lots would do nearly as well against the Colossus, but somehow it pulls away and like giant battles that just can erupt on this map if
Yeah,
people are just passive.
there's definitely timings you can hit with charge lots where your opponent doesn't have like the zealot count that they need to tank for that incredibly high zealot count. So you could go for like zealot Archon Immortal, and the Archons do the splash damage to the lighter units in your Protoss opponent's army. The Immortals are then free to focus fire down the Colossus without any tanking units. You obviously can't hold back that army with force fields because the Archons walk right over them. You don't have zealot. You don't have enough zealots really. Usually, if you're going for a Colossus build, to push these zealots back on their own. So really, what ends up happening is you've got these Colossus, but the battle is fought so close to your army that like you don't get the chance to utilize the range on the Colossus as much as you would like to. And so there's a lot of timings you could hit with that kind of unit composition. But you're right. It is a deceptively strong unit composition in Protoss versus Protoss. It only really works in the mid game, though. Once the Colossus count gets up high enough, that stops to not really being viable. Like, you just get those zealots incinerated way too fast by the combined splash of all of those lasers. Those very powerful lasers.
War of the World stuff.
Yeah.
So it's charging into giant lasers that just obliterate everything.
Those Colossus be charging up their lasers.
Yeah, dude. Fire in the...
We do have RemarK. He is now in the lobby. So this is going to be MxG RemarK versus ZeeZ Zugzwang. ZeeZ Zugs. Am I alone in thinking that this guy's got like a very like wacky tag that's hard to say? It doesn't really matter though, because he's definitely a very strong player, and this is going to be a very good Protoss versus Protoss. At least I'm hoping that it will be. It is going to be on Shakura's Plateau. It is game number 7 between these two teams. We are going to be closing this one out in style between these two ace Protoss players. The map is just now finishing loading, and we now have our 2 players there spawning on the map. We have our red Protoss player giving his team that 3-3 tie, an opportunity to come away with a win. Can he take out MxG RemarK? He is ZeeZ Zugs.
And over here on the right side, top position, we have our grocery toss, MxG RemarK.
We have the produce toss, because he always produces.
He always produces.
He always produces produce.
He always produces good games. Oh, man. I feel dirty after that.
You're not going to remark about my pun that I made with this guy's name?
No, I'm not. That's terrible.
So bad, guys. If you think my pun was terrible, please tell me, because I think my pun was so terrible it was actually pretty good. We have, all right, like I said already before, we have usually very few variations in Protoss versus Protoss builds. Really, the only way that you really know what the two sides are going to be doing is what we're going to be seeing out of their second tech option. But we do have a little bit of something we can talk about. Both sides are going for a 13 gate. Now, that is a little bit more of an economical opening, but it leads to a slower cybernetics card, which means it also leads to a slower warp gate timing. So it doesn't look like either one of these players is going to be super aggressive. We're not going to be seeing any 4 gates. And both of them are spending a lot of chrono boost energy on probes.
Yeah. RemarK taking an earlier gas than normal. Definitely looking to do something aggressive. So we're going to be seeing an aggressive build out of RemarK. Meanwhile, Zug is playing this pretty standard. Normally you see Toss take their second gas at like 19-20. RemarK just took his directly after his 14 one, so it's probably at like 15. But yeah, just putting 2 on each gas, getting that little extra gas income. And yeah, we're going to see some heavier aggression from RemarK.
I mean, it kind of plays out a little bit into what I was expecting earlier. RemarK could be going for a very heavy Blink Stalker timing, and this earlier second gas will allow him to finish or to start his Cyber Core, or his Twilight Council, excuse me, as soon as his Cyber Core is done. This could also be for an earlier Sentry play, so that this could be a very defensive 3-gate Robo style. It could also be for a Stargate, but either way, this is an interesting decision because he did go for that earlier second gas, but he's only harvesting from it with 2 probes. So you got 4 probes mining gas, and we don't really have any sort of indication of what sort of tech he's going to be going for after this.
No, we don't. It just looks like he's going to be doing the standard 3 stalker pressure, and I believe after that second and third stalker gets started, we're going to see a real change in whatever he's going to be going for.
Yeah,
so right now, just both players being very passive.
Yeah, for Zugz, we actually do see him chronoing out 2 stalkers from each of those warp gates. So both players are actually kind of copying each other in this regard. So normally what this is trying to do is trying to get some earlier map control out, just so that they can kind of like counter each other if like they're trying to like plant proxy pylons, get scouting information, that sort of thing. But both of them are going to be going for that Twilight Council. So true to the advertising, we are going to be seeing Blink Stalkers on Shakura's Plateau. It is one of the best maps in the map pool for Blink Stalkers in PvP, and there are so many reasons why, but I mean, all of it really has to do with the geography on this map, and it doesn't take a genius to really figure out why Blink Stalkers would be so good here.
Yeah. We've seen the exact same build from both players, basically. It looks like, yeah, Zugz is going to be a little bit ahead as far as the Stalker count goes, just because he hasn't stopped Stalker production. A little bit further behind. Actually, no. Catching up very quickly with that Chrono Boost. Caught up to the Blink Stalker or the Blink research of RemarK. So yeah, right now, Zugz is a little bit ahead.
I mean, I think the real big difference here is that RemarK did go for that single sentry. Now, a single sentry doesn't really seem like it's all that much, but I mean, you can see the difference here already. We have RemarK had the earlier gas down, so he had a higher gas income than his opponent did really throughout the course of this game so far. But he is slower, or he's about the same on his blink timing. He's got fewer stalkers. Well, what's the disparity? Because he made a single sentry, and that single sentry makes up for two stalkers because of the gas cost of it. So but the one thing about this though is that if it does come down to a Blink Stalker versus Blink Stalker battle, RemarK will have Guardian Shield, which will also force Zugz into focus firing down that sentry, which will waste a bunch of Stalker shots. So this could be a good decision by RemarK to go for the single sentry. But what it does in the immediate is that it does put him behind slightly in the Stalker count. We do have a slight engagement over here, and it does look like RemarK will be able to get away without losing any of those Stalkers. He still has Blink available to him. Will he lose any of these Stalkers? He might lose one. Nope, there goes the Blink. So RemarK will not lose any of those Stalkers, but here comes Zugz. Zugz is going to be planting himself down here at the low ground. He will be able to potentially warp into the main base once this observer actually comes out on the field, but both players are actually going to see each other's observers. Here comes the observers. They are spotting each other. The observers don't like the fact that each observer can see each other. So they might actually be countering each other out a little bit. This might come down strictly to control, or both players might just choose to back up at this point.
Yeah. And right now, Zugz seeing what his opponent's doing.
That observer is going to get spotted and taken out. That could be a big game changer, at least at this point. So RemarK can still be aggressive because he still has an observer out on the map. But without an observer for Zugz, he cannot actually do the same thing.
And yeah, now Zugz is just going to be taking his natural. And because he's already ahead in that standpoint, he's continuing to get ahead. And RemarK is now going to look to put out some aggression, but I'm not sure how well that's going to work. He just doesn't have enough gates. He doesn't have enough to be aggressive like this. At least not to kill.
We do have another slight variation now in the way that these two players are choosing to approach this game from here on out. We have a second Immortal coming out for Zugz, but we have a Robotics Bay coming out for RemarK. So RemarK at this point is just trying to keep his opponent on a defensive posture while he goes up to that Colossus timing. He was able to actually kill that pylon that was warping in additional Stalkers, which is going to force a cancel on all of them, reset the Warp Gate cooldown on all of those different Warp Gates. And the destruction of that pylon is actually going to supply block Zugz slightly, but it is now 66 supply to 65 supply for RemarK. Now, the one thing is, if RemarK was actually able to spot this pylon over here, he'd be able to take that out also and even further supply block his opponent. But we had 3 pylons now in production for Zugz. Nexus is already down. The Nexus for RemarK is a little bit slower, but the one big difference here is the fact that Robotics Bay is already down for our blue Protoss player.
Yeah, right now we have the Stalker dance. RemarK looking to go into the back side of the base. Might even get the Immortal right now. No, Immortal gets away. He doesn't want to commit to that blink because he knows if he gets trapped in there, he's going to lose all those Stalkers. Again, pulling back Zug's army, making sure that he can't move out of his base. Meanwhile, he has taken his natural and he's getting it fully saturated. Even adding on the additional gas while getting out his Colossi. So they're definitely gearing up for that heavier style of play. Meanwhile, Zug's sitting on that Immortal production, not ready to go up to Colossus just yet.
I mean, there is going to be a window of opportunity where Zugz can actually abuse the fact that his opponent does not have an immortal count that can compete with his, and until the Colossus count actually gets high, these Colossus are actually kind of a liability. So Zugz can't really spot what his opponent is doing because RemarK is staying so active with those observers and those stalkers that Zugz is pretty much in the dark. He doesn't even have any sort of scouting information of the main base of RemarK at all. So if he knew that his opponent was going for this Colossus follow-up, it would give him the opportunity to actually take map control, knowing that his opponent can't really deal with the Immortals in his army. But again, this also has a lot to do with the way that Shakura's Plateau is laid out. If Zugz leaves his base, he has a superior army out in the open because of those Immortals, but I mean, that's obviously leaving him open to a backdoor attack from those Blink Stalkers. So overall, RemarK is just playing this map out beautifully, knowing that he can use these Blink Stalkers for map control and then follow that up with that Colossus play. So now we have these Stalkers actually are able to spot the proxy power that was put down over here from Zugz, which is just a little bit more of a hindrance to his production. And now we also have +1 coming out for RemarK as well. So he will have +1 weapon attacks in addition to that quicker Colossus count.
Yeah, and one thing that I like that Zugz did, he dropped down 2 Robos. He now has double Colossus production. And once you get more Colossi than your opponent, it's game over. It is so hard to out-micro your opponent when they have a superior Colossus count. It can be done, it just makes it so much harder for yourself to do it. And RemarK putting down a second Robo of himself, excuse me. But, you know, just because of that slight, you know, build timing on Zugz's Robos, he's going to be able to produce a lot more Colossi than his opponent.
I mean, I don't know about that, Ajax. I mean, we already have 3 Colossus out on the field for RemarK, and he is now able to produce 2 Colossus at a time. So he is, if both players continue making Colossus at this point, RemarK does have that 1 Colossus advantage, as well as the quicker upgrades. Now, does he also have charge, though? That's the one big difference, because Zugz is going for a charge on his Zealots, and RemarK doesn't have it. And as we talked about earlier, charge slots can make a big difference in mid-game attacks with that are Colossus-based, but also it might not make a difference considering the fact that the Colossus count is already pretty high for both players. We are going to be going up to 6 Colossus in just a moment.
We have RemarK taking his third right now, feeling confident in his production, feeling he can take that relatively easy without any threat. Getting +2 now as well. His extended thermal lance is just finished. Meanwhile, his opponent Zugz is about halfway, a little over halfway done. Right now, it looks like RemarK is controlling the game. He has both watchtowers. Zugz now sees that RemarK is taking his third, so he should be thinking about either taking his third or we're going to be seeing an engagement soon. And 2 gateways go down, so I don't think Zugz is looking to take another base. I think he's looking to end the game.
Can he, though, Ajax? Can he? This map is kind of a difficult map to assault with Colossus. I mean, if you're trying to attack RemarK's natural, if you see your opponent coming, which RemarK definitely will, you have an opportunity to position your Colossus at the top of that ramp, both on the in the main and also in the natural, that you can get a really nice defender's advantage with those Colossus. So I don't know if attacking into that would go all that well for Zugz, but really it all comes down to the positioning from both players. It does look like RemarK will be getting a run by over here with these Blink Stalkers into the main base. Now, this is going to do some economic damage to Zugz, but this is also Stalkers that are not going to be able to actually support the main army of RemarK when this engagement actually happens. There is a supply advantage for RemarK. He's up to 177 supply, +2 attack will be finishing in just a moment. That could play a huge advantage in here for our Blue Protoss player as well. And again, Zugz keeps losing units, not able to actually get into the kind of position that he wants to assault into this army, but here comes the engagement. The Colossus are in the back for RemarK. Neither side are really starting to assault each other's Colossus count, but look at the Immortal count for Zugz. These Immortals are doing a lot of damage to these Colossus, but a flank from these Blink Stalkers are going to force a lot of these Colossus to actually turn around and fire in the opposite direction, and this might be what allows RemarK to take the advantage in this engagement, and it does look like it will be. All of the Colossus are still alive for RemarK, and there's the GG. Well played.
Beautiful engagement by RemarK there. allowing the units to come in and, splitting his Colossi back, realizing, you know what, I've got my Stalkers alive still. I did economical damage. I can bring them back and flank this. And he did so. And, once Colossus are shooting in all directions, they become almost useless. They're just like Siege tanks that way. If you flank them, if you do whatever you can to get better positioning on them, they become absolutely useless. And, he's able to split his Colossus, minimize damage, keep those 4 Colossus alive, and Zugz at that point knew there was no coming
He
back.
also had the upgrade lead, Ajax. And I've heard In Control say before that unless it's 3-3 against 0-0, upgrades in PvP don't make that big of a difference. But I really think that even if that engagement had gone that way for Zugz, it wouldn't have been that one-sided if he had been able to match his opponent's upgrade count, especially with the Immortals on the field, because the Immortals scale so well with upgrades. But either way, that is going to do it for this series. It is going to be a 4-3 win for Team MxG over Team Ripsy. So good win for Multitude Gaming. RemarK coming out in the clutch to take this series for his team. But that was a really back and forth series with all sorts of really good games being played.
Yeah, great PvP. I'm surprised they didn't go through with the whole Blink Stalker thing, but it just turned out better for RemarK in the end because RemarK realized it sooner, and with the Blink Stalker, putting a little bit of pressure, making sure his opponent had to stay on his base, he realized that he could take the advantage, and he put down that Robo sooner and gave him the early Colossus production. So our next games are going to be Optic and Property.
Yeah, that is going to be coming up on the second match of this Sunday. We actually do more games on Sunday than we do during the week. So we have more StarCraft action coming up for you in just a little bit, but I think we are going to be taking a quick commercial break while we kind of adjust and get our players and everything set up. But that was a really good series for our first series of the day. I hope you guys stick with us for the second one. We have 2 more great teams coming up, and me and Ajax are going to be sticking with you on this Sunday afternoon. It is 3:40 on the Pacific Coast right now, on the West Coast, and it's a beautiful day outside, but we are sitting inside casting StarCraft games.